What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm here with some book reviews. Let's get it. Okay. Let's get started. I have 4 books to review today. What order do I want to do these in? I'm just going to do them in the order that they're here. No particular order. Let's just get into it. The first one is The Memory Police. Okay. This book, you ever had a book that's been like, that you've owned for years? It's been on your list for years. And it's just sitting there. That's this one. I finally got to it, okay? I finally got to this book. And, okay, so what is it about? It's about this community that's living isolated on an island. And, one by one, things are being removed from the collective memory and society. So, like a ribbon is being taken away from everybody's collective memory, and it's kind of like it never existed. Perfume, kind of like it never existed. Birds, kind of like it never existed. However, there's a group of people, individuals, that they don't forget, because typically everybody living on the island, they will not remember. Like over a matter of a couple of days after something's been removed, they can feel that something's missing, but then over time, it's like it never existed. But there are some people that they don't forget. And so you kind of get to see how that plays out. This is a real good look at authoritarian society. It's like a good look at mass manipulation, pretty much, at population control, at controlling every single thing, like how you can literally change and shift reality. So that's what this book is about. It's very interesting. It's not the best dystopian book I've ever read, even though I hear people say this is their favorite book all the time. It wasn't bad. I think I just had higher expectations than I should have had. It was some brilliant parts in here, but I don't know. Let me be fair. After being on a really good run of reading back to back books I really liked, this one I wanted a tiny bit more. I don't even know what I wanted. I don't know what I wanted. I don't know. I feel like I wanted to connect more with the characters or something. Very, very good, though. I still would recommend it to people that like dystopian novels. I recommend it to you if you like Fahrenheit 451, if you like 1984, if you like 100 Years of Solitude. I feel like you'd also like this. I enjoyed it. The reading experience was good. I actually went through it kind of quick because I wanted to know where the story was heading. I wanted to know where these group of people were going. I wanted to know how the memory police were operating in this community. So it was very interesting, very good. It was very interesting. A story about preserving the past, a story about, again, government control. Interesting. I think I just wanted to like the characters more. I wanted to connect more with the characters. But every story can't have everything. So I feel like it's the only thing that this was really missing, is I just don't feel like I was invested enough in the characters. That's the only gripe that I have. Other than that, it was a good, unforgettable, a masterful work of speculative fiction. That's what the Chicago Tribune said. But yeah, that's the first one. Let me know what you think. So many people have said this is their favorite book. So many. Finally got to it. It feels good to finally read a book that you said you were going to read for 5 years. It feels good to read a book. You know what? This is a dystopian book. Earlier this year, I read A Brave New World, and I had that on my list for years as well, another dystopian book. So I knocked out 2 dystopian books that I had on my list for the longest time. I finally read them this year. That feels good to me. Feels good. So yeah, that's book 1. Okay. Book 2. This book was not what I expected. It wasn't what I expected. It was included in my 10 before the end. Actually, the next 3 books were included in my 10 before the end. This is the one that I mentioned that I had already started. I only got a little bit of the way through. But I feel like I went into it thinking that it was one thing and it's another. That's Lose Your Mother by Saidiya Hartman. When I first picked this book up and when I read the synopsis, I really thought this book was about the author tracing the slave trade in Ghana. Like just walking through, kind of giving like a narrative exploration of the, the slave trade in Ghana. That's what I thought this book was about primarily. Yes, that is what the book is about, but it's packaged in another exploration of the relationship between Black Americans and Ghanaians. That I wasn't expecting when I first went into this. It wasn't like what I got when I read the synopsis. It wasn't what I got when I got through the first, 10, 20, 30 pages the last time I tried to read it. But so much of the book was about like the author talking about managing expectations and how there are expats who leave America, like Black Americans who leave America. And they go to places like Ghana in search of home. They didn't feel like they were at home in America. And then they go to Ghana seeking that sense of home. And then they get there and they also still feel lonely, still feel like they're exiled, still feel like they're not a part of a community. And it just goes to say, like, if you think that you're going to move to Ghana and you're going to just jump and be like welcome with open arms and, this and that, you got another thing coming. And another thing that this book made me think about too, which I don't know. I've never been to Ghana, okay? But she talked about how when she went to certain places as an American and she got there, and it was such an emotional feeling for her because she's thinking about the history. She's thinking about her potential ancestors. She's thinking about what took place there and how that affected everything that she's known. And then the reaction, I guess, that she sees when she gets there from Ghanaians who live there. And just even like things that they've said and how she's just kind of like taken aback by it. I feel like while that was good to see from her perspective, I do think it was missing like a little bit of nuance from like a Ghanaian's perspective. Like she kind of assumed what they felt like. It was a very American centric view, which I mean, she is American, but at times, like, I felt like it was kind of like they don't care, like they this, and to them it meant nothing, and this and that, and they were so cold. But at the same time, like, you're not really, it was not that much space to understand their perspective either, like when you come there and you do certain things. So I don't know, it was very eye-opening. It was heartbreaking to think about, like, the slave trade. It was heartbreaking to think about going, like, walking through it and just, I think I could feel the immense, like, weight and pressure that must have felt like. And to think about, like, how that's impacted centuries. Like, yeah, to really think about what that must have felt like or looked like, or like what that experience was like, especially being there for a year and then seeing like modern Ghana, and then thinking about you walking through this like historical site and thinking about, how they contrast and things like that. So I was going in expecting to see a very, very emotional kind of retelling of the transatlantic slave trade starting in Ghana. But I got that, but I also got like just commentary on that relationship between Black Americans and Ghanaians. Sorry. Very interesting. I do wish, I mean, it's her book. She wrote it the way she wanted to read it. But I kept thinking when I went back, it's like, it's hard to look at somebody else and seeing their reaction and then immediately low-key like cast judgment on their reaction to you. So I don't know. Who knows? I've never been, but it is a place I want to go. Very interesting book, very emotional. Like I said, I started this 2 years ago and I put it down because it was just like really heavy. I finished it. I'm glad I did. She does have another book I do want to check out because I did enjoy the way that she wrote the story. I like the way it was crafted. It was like, again, it was a narrative exploration, but it had a lot of her personal, like, it felt memoir-ish, you know? But yeah, that was that. Okay. Next, this was also on my 10 before the end. I finished it. It's the first book that I've read like this. That is A City on Mars. Can we settle space? Should we settle space? And have we really thought this through? By Kelly and Zach Weinersmith. This is a pop science book, and I've never read a pop science book. I've never read a book about something so serious, but the book itself is so unserious. I don't think I've ever seen something like this packaged in this way. This is a first for me. This is a book obviously about should we settle space, the implications, everything surrounding it, but it's full of jokes, it's full of sarcasm, it's full of illustrations. It's full of it's just so unserious. It's almost like a comic strip, it seems like, but about like a super serious topic, but it's very informative. So Kelly and Zach Weinersmith are space enthusiasts, okay? They took some time, joined a community, they had genuine interest in it, and they set out to write a book about settling space. Initially, they thought that they would be like pro-settle space, okay? The more they ask questions, the more they dig into stuff, the more they think about stuff, the more it seems kind of like, wait a minute, should we settle space right now? Like, we get settling space, but like, I feel like this is kind of moving fast. And there's one quote I want to bring up. See, look, I told you it's full of illustrations. I hope y'all can see that. Okay, anyways, there's one quote I want to bring up. As we dug in, our stacks of concerns got bigger and bigger. How does democracy function in a society where air is rationed and possibly under corporate control? How does sociology change if humans can't reproduce unless they're in Earth normal gravity? How do we avoid a scramble for territory if some regions of space are better than others? Incidentally, what is the actual space law today? How did it get that way, and is it likely to change? It turns out when you just think about technical things like the size of rockets or whether Mars has water or carbon, the picture can look pretty solid. When you get into more squishy details of human existence, things start to look, well, squishy. Especially squishy, for example, our space babies. Can we make them? Yeah, this book is interesting. It's a lot of stuff. To be honest, I knew nothing about settling space. I knew nothing about the conversations about settling Mars or the moon. I knew very basic things about, very basic. I knew some of what SpaceX is doing. I knew some of what NASA is doing. I knew very minimal things. So almost everything here was pretty new to me. Very interesting. It's just, it raised some important questions. And then I don't know, I just wasn't expecting this to be so unserious when it's about such a serious topic, but that made it digestible. So I do kind of appreciate the way that the story was told. It's very interesting. It made me think about certain things oh, I never considered that. Yeah, that's interesting. And another thing that this brought up that I think is important is people love to have a short-term memory. People love to think that human beings are going to abandon their human nature because something new comes up. People are people are people are people, all the way back to people was people. As far back as you want to go, people are people. Human nature is human nature. They're going to be greedy. There's going to be somebody that wants to control something, especially where we are now, and the United States being the nation that it is, China being the nation that it is, Russia being the nation that it is, India being the nation that it is, you name it. People want to think, oh, We're gonna kumbaya, all come together and treat people right on space. We're gonna be so ethical and moral on this space exploration. No, they not. Like, they're not. I don't even know why people like to lie to themselves and think that that's how it's gonna be. It's not. That's what this book highlighted as well. So this is a good book. It was very unserious for such a serious topic, but that made it easy to digest, especially from somebody like me who had no idea about any of this, about space law, about how these things work, about space nations and cities and pods, about none of that. So this is very interesting about the space community, period, the legal implications, ethical implications, social implications, the psychology involved in like astronauts and space travel and stuff like that. So very, very interesting. I like the way this was written. I like that. This is something like I would find a topic that I'm interested in and then like see if they had a pop science book about it, because I just like the way it was told. You know, plenty of illustrations, kind of jokes. Well, not ha funny, but easy to digest funny. Okay, last book. That is Daddy is a Number Runner. Okay, I was so excited to read this. First of all, the title got me, and the picture got me, and the fact that the main character was a little girl named Francie got me. What I didn't know is this book is like, did it say this on the back? Because I feel like there's no way I missed it. Kinda, but not really. This book is basically a black retelling of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. And I read that book a couple months ago. I did not know this going into it. They got the same name, Francie, yes. But this book is like a black retelling. I mean, similar storyline with the dad, the mom, the brother, the aunt, the people in the neighborhood, the teacher, like, yeah. Within the first couple chapters, you quickly realize, this could be a trigger to a lot of people. You quickly realize that everybody in this book is like a pedophile. I mean, like, you don't get super graphic details, but it's always like this creep, he this, he that. You can't avoid these men being creeps in this book. That's everywhere, it was apparent in A Tree Grows in Brooklyn too, but it was just a little different. This is like very in your face. It's not graphic details and scenes being played out. There's two that is pretty graphic, but you'll just get a mention of somebody doing this. Oh, they're this, they're doing that. They're creepy, they're doing this. And so you see that in this book. But yeah, this book is basically a black retelling of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. That's what I got from it. That's exactly what I got from it. And I was like, dang, the dad, they got a piano in the house, just down to so many different things. And I didn't know that going in. I would have still read it if I knew that going in. I really liked A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. If you like A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, you'll like this. It's a black version of it. Takes place right after the Great Depression. Well, they're in the Great Depression, but right after the start of the Great Depression. They're in Harlem, and the family is poor. They're poor. They're trying to get by. A lot goes on. Francie is making sense of life around her. She's trying to make sense of this weird friendship she got with her friend. Her friend, who you initially think is just being like a bad friend, you then see that she's just a product of her environment. You see she got her own stuff going on, and you kind of feel bad. Her sister got stuff going on. Her mom, like, Francie is trying to make sense of this boy that she likes. She's trying to make sense of this, and her dad, and what's going on in her parents' marriage, and her brother. And it's just a dynamic coming of age story that takes place during the Great Depression in Harlem. And you see Francie's perspective shift on her city, period. You can kind of see that slight transition from when you see things from a child's lens, and then when you start to mature a little bit and you see things slightly different. I do like that you kind of get to see that transition, because I feel like everybody goes through that at some point. What you thought you saw as a kid, yes, it's true, but you got a different perspective on it now. Now you're looking at it and you don't see it as just a surface level, view. It was good. I enjoyed it. I wish I would have thought about the fact or known that it was a black retelling of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, but that's what it was. Very much enjoyed it. Very good. Very interesting. If you like coming of age stories, black coming of age stories, in the Great Depression, in Harlem, I feel like you like this. But yeah, you just get to see how Francie's innocence, her dreams, how they just develops into something else. So yeah, that's that. That's it, y'all. That's it for today. 4 book reviews. Yeah, let me know what y'all think. Have you read any of these? Do you want to? Yeah. That's it. I'm gonna see y'all on the next one.